Well, good morning. It's my amazing privilege this morning to talk with Siviwe Dongwana. Siviwe, you've been part of the business rescue of SAA, and it's really great to get this morning your insight. I've also always appreciated the amazing wisdom and wisdom and insight that you've offered me, and I know that you can contribute quite well to our discussion this morning. And I thought maybe we could just start by asking, um, what do you think is the current state, the reality in the world with COVID and the rest?
Good morning, Eben, and thank you very much for the opportunity to have the conversation. The real state and the issue of the world with COVID is that I think fundamentally the real state is a state of uncertainty. And I think we are all struggling, and the entire world is struggling because the world is not accustomed to uncertainty. And if you think about everything that seems to drive the human endeavor to progress, has to a greater degree at its foundations creating some level of certainty for us as human beings. So, basic things like we have created electricity so that there's a level of certainty that you can get warm water when you need it, and you can get light when you need it. So the entire underpinnings of a government is that transport systems create a level of certainty that you can move from point A to point B, and it'll take you so much time. The cell phone networks create certainty that I pick up a phone and I call Eben, and I'm able to have a conversation with him. But what COVID does, it undermines that ability for us to be certain. So in the Financial Times Week and newspaper for the 24th, about 2 weeks ago, 24th of May, for the first time in the history of China, they are unable to predict what their GDP numbers are going to be. The last time they were in that position was in the 1970s. Mm. A huge amount of businesses are unable to predict what their numbers are going to look like tomorrow because of the uncertainty that emanates from COVID. So, in a nutshell, I think for me, the one issue that has created a massive dark cloud for the world and for us as humans around COVID is the levels of uncertainty. For the first time in a long time, we don't have a sense of what tomorrow looks like.
And of course, that brings about a lot of stress and anxiety on a mass level in our society, which has ripple effects on how we live lives and how we and our behavior and those kinds of things. My second question would be, what is your you've just spoke about the uncertainty and we don't know what the future is. And yet I want to ask you the ironic question, what do you think may come from this? What does the future hold?
Well, I guess much as one does not have a crystal ball, I think what the future holds is that perhaps at a very small level, it just perhaps reminds us as human beings that we have limitations. That notwithstanding our ability to develop technologies, notwithstanding our ability to progress healthcare, and notwithstanding our ability to fly men into the moon, etc., that with all of those developments and the technology and everything, we have a foundational limitation. that the world we live in is not of our own creation, that there's something bigger than ourselves. And so in my view then, it then says, notwithstanding the uncertainty, that it becomes important that we recognize our limitations as human beings and find that which provides us a level of certainty, which is our faith. And I think that's one of those things that are important in the times of uncertainty. That in the times of uncertainty, we recognize that there's something bigger than us in the God we pray, in the God we believe in. So that's one side. But as far as the world as we know it, what does the future hold? I think what the future hold is that what COVID has done, it has made it very clear to all of us that there is most probably going to be more instances, COVID-type-like instances in the world, where as a consequence of our actions, whether tomorrow it's going to be climate issues, whether it's going to be political issues, but there's a sense that I have that what COVID is demonstrating is that there's going to be more such events where there's a huge amount of uncertainty, and they fundamentally challenge our beliefs, they fundamentally challenge our traditions, they fundamentally challenge who we are and how we have always seen ourselves in relation to each other and in relation to the world. And so, as the people in business would say, the only certainty today is that there's going to be uncertainty.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what we're planning as a parish, for example, what's been in my mind, and I think it's really been born out of a place of vision for what the future could be, is that if we want to future-proof ourselves, it's in resourcing and empowering people. And especially if we want to look into the future, is empowering young leaders and how they can shape the future, and how this time is, as you say, fundamentally shifting paradigms for a particular generation, whether it's millennials or Gen Zs, the older people as well. But I think those who are going in trying to discern what the next 40 or 30 years of their lives is going to be like, how's this fundamentally shifting them, and how can we empower them? And what would you say to those young leaders? What is the sort of the principles? What are the things that they need to look out for in order to ensure that this world remains and it becomes even better?
Well, Eben, I think to me it sounds like a paradox. Whilst a lot of things are changing around us, there's a lot of things that remain the same. So values remain the same. Values, love, courtesy, honesty, the need to care for the others, the need to always think about the next person. All of those remain unchanged, and I guess they've remained so for as long as the humans have been around. But what I think is changing, and where we have to open ourselves to young people leading, is open ourselves to be questioned, open our paradigms to be challenged, open ourselves to our traditions and belief systems to be questioned in a fundamental way. Because it is clear to me that the world is constantly moving forward. It is never static. But the things that enable the direction that provide a better direction is not so much the fact that the world is not going to change, but it's in the questions that people ask. And I think what young people, what the youth do is question. And when we give them the license to pose those questions, and when we reflect deeply about the questions that they ask, and when we recognize that it is not our ability to provide answers to those questions that will move the dial, but is our ability to engage with those questions. That is what moves the dial. It's not so much to provide answers, but is in having the constant conversation. That's what moves the world, and I think that's what is going to make the world a better place. Once we don't question anything, we remain static. And if we remain static, then we will seek to bury ourselves and our heads in the past that is familiar, that provides us with certainty, in the past that allows certain of the issues that the world has always contended with to remain unchanged. So if we don't open ourselves to change, then we stuck with the communities and the people who look like us, who speak like us, who give us the levels of comfort that we are comfortable with, if there's such an English phrase. So we then are stuck in all our old modes of sexism, of racism, of all the types of bigotries that we have in the world. But if we open ourselves, we're able to move the world forward. We're able to move boundaries. We're able to destroy that which divides us. We're able to create new paths to a better future. And I think that's, for me, is a dynamism that young people bring. That was a bit of a long-winded answer.
That's well said, well said. And then maybe my last question would be then, as faith is as much an intricate part of this changing process of, I think you once said to me that the strive for a better world is just continuous. It's something, the freedoms that we enjoy today is something that we need to keep on fighting for every day. And so how does faith, your faith, come into play in ensuring that you are grounded, and how does that play out for you in this time and in the time to come?
So for me, Eben, the way for me faith works is that it is I move from the premise that I am here by the grace of God, and that all that has happened, that has put me at this particular point in time in history, has been done and an outcome of the grace of God. It is also my belief that, in a funny way, everything that is happening in the world and how the world progresses and what my role is as an individual in an otherwise very, very big world, and a very, very tiny role as far as my life is concerned, is part of a bigger play in the way in which God continuously reveals himself in the world as part of this great evolution of the revelation of God. And so understanding that is that I allow myself to remain under God's grace about what the future holds, but remain in that, knowing very well that the God who has brought me here, it's still the same God who's going to take me forward.
Absolutely.
And that whatever uncertainties we have in the world today, and that whatever questions that are there that remain unanswered, they will be revealed in the course of time, in God's time, in God's way. And so that for me is the faith that I have, that ultimately all of this will ultimately reveal the love of God.
That should give us an amazing hope for whatever we face.
Yeah.
Siviwe, I thank you for your time, and I thank you for all your insights this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Eben. Much appreciated.